This is the Cubs POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Chicago Cubs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome into the Locked On Cubs POSTCAST here on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. All right, the Cubs lose 5-0. Another day, another stinker for the Cubs. First of all, I'll start here. This is boring right now. Like, it's boring to watch the Cubs. They're not fun to watch, honestly, because even when you know guys are getting on base, they're doing nothing with it. Well, that's pretty much what we're going to talk about in the first part of the show, is that they're not clutch. We're going to talk about Ian Happ. I cannot believe where Craig Counsell had him batting in the lineup. This team needs a spark, absolutely needs one. I think it's time for Craig Counsell and this front office to make a radical change to this team. We'll discuss that. And I'm out on Ryan Brasier. So the Cubs go 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. You have ample opportunities to score in this game. Yes, Matthew Boyd gives up 3 earned runs. Ryan Brasier gives up 2. You lose 5-0. But the Cubs had opportunities to score in the second inning, in the fourth inning, in the fifth inning, in the eighth inning. They had 7 hits in this game, all singles. So they didn't slug at all in this one. At least we had guys on base, like the littlest of positive things. Like, guys got on base in this game, which has not really been happening for the Cubs in their losses of recent. But you're just there's just not any clutch on the Cubs right now. I mean, and look, it's not one guy. Like, it's not just Ian Happ. It's not just Dansby Swanson. It's pretty much all of them. They're not getting guys across the plate time and time again. Yes, they won that last game of the last series, but the reason why they keep losing these games a lot of times is because the offense is just not producing. And I wish it was one player. Like, I wish we could focus in on Ian Happ or Kyle Tucker and say that their struggles are the sole reason why the Cubs are losing these games. But the entire lineup is, I like this word here from Freedom Acres here in the chat. Can't believe the Cubs are imploding like this. Yeah, imploding is the way I would also describe the offense. Look, they're not bringing anyone in. 0 for 9 with runners in scoring positions, absolutely inexcusable. You're inexcusable. You're not going to win baseball games that way. And the worst one of all of them is definitely what happened when Dansby Swanson and Nico Hoerner got on first and second with no outs in the top of the fifth. Michael Busch ugly chases, and gets the strikeout. Seiya Suzuki pops out to second base. It's not just the pop out that's the problem. It's that he had 2 93-mile-an-hour cookies down the middle, and he didn't do anything with them. Because even when, these guys who have been scuffling at the top, from, Busch, PCA, Tucker, Suzuki, they're getting opportunities. They have pitches pretty often that they can hit, and they're not coming through with them. And that's what Seiya Suzuki did in that at-bat. 2 golden opportunities to do some damage, and he wasn't able to do so. And then Kyle Tucker sends one to the warning track there in the 5th inning. You don't score. But look, when you change the lineup in the way that Craig Counsell did, if you say, okay, Nico's going to walk, Dansby's going to get a hit, and that's going to turn it over to Michael Busch, Seiya Suzuki, and Kyle Tucker, you got to get at least 2 runs. I mean, at least 2 runs with those guys up. I guess I'll settle for 1 at this point. I guess can't ask for too much here, but they're just not able to do it. I mean, this entire team it seems incapable of getting guys home on a consistent basis. And look, the Cubs have a sizable chunk lead on the Cincinnati Reds. Like, I don't think the Cubs are going to miss the playoffs, but they're not doing anything that is inspiring to the fact that you right now would have any belief that they're going to make it out of a 3-game series. There's no belief in that right now, the way that they're playing. The lineup is just simply not good enough. A lot of calls for bunts here in the chat here on YouTube, like from Cliff. Bunt move people over, 2 on, no outs. You know what? Go for it. Like, I'm not a bunt guy. I think you pay these guys for a reason to hit the baseball and do something with it. But I'll take it. Like, I would take a bunt right now to move people over to at least try to get a sac fly So all you have to do is get the ball in the air, which honestly the Cubs have struggled to do. Like even when they've had opportunities with guys on third, Ian Happ, what are you doing? Like they're not driving guys in that way either. So it's just classically inept. Cliff says they beat us by bunting. They did, but it doesn't mean the Cubs are going to do it well. And the Cubs still have to, just because you bunt someone over means you still have to bring them home. And honestly, like even if, let's say Michael Busch bunts there with Dansby and Nico on first and second, and it's second and third with one out. Does anyone actually have confidence that they're going to score? If it plays out the exact same way, say Suzuki pops out to second base, that's 2 outs. Kyle Tucker flies out to the warning track, that's 3 outs. And the other thing about the Cubs, and I've been saying this for a while, I don't know what happened to them, to their base stealing ability. They were ultra aggressive early in the season. They've completely cooled off that. And honestly, when you talk about how this Cubs lineup is performing, I would rather start seeing the Cubs be risky on the base pass and start trying to take bags and trying to be ultra aggressive. I would honestly prefer seeing guys get thrown out at second and third because you're, not doing anything when they're stationary. So at least try to be aggressive in some way, but they're just not doing that. They're not doing anything. They're not trying to be more aggressive on the base pass. They're not trying to do what the chat is suggesting with bunts and playing small ball. They're getting guys on base, but they're not moving them across the plate in any way, shape, or form. Let's talk about Ian Happ here before we go to break. So Ian Happ is batting fourth in this lineup. Look, I know Craig Counsell is trying to change things up. Why? But why that decision? Why is that the decision that you make? And again, this game's not solely on Ian Happ, even though he has the blunder of the game, I would call it. But why is that the move that you make? Not like they have much better options. Like, what do you want? Dansby there, Carson Kelly, who's not hitting the ball particularly well. The only guy really at the bottom that's hitting the ball well at this point is Nico Horner and Matt Shaw, who wasn't in the lineup. And you don't want Matt Shaw batting fourth, even though at this point I got to try anything to try to get the Cubs a spark. We're going to talk specifically what I would do after the break. But if this is your current construct of your roster, try something different. Maybe instead of just moving Kyle Tucker down, maybe it's moving Michael Busch back down a little bit. Maybe it's putting back up with Nico Horner, just make him your everyday leadoff guy. Try something like that. Maybe try PCA at the leadoff. Try something different. If you're going to be radically different, just go for it, I guess. But I don't know. I don't know what the goal of the lineup change was, why Craig Counsell felt the need, but I chuckled when I saw the Cubs tweet out the lineup today with the way that this thing was constructed against the Cardinals. All right, we'll take our break here. When we get back, I think it's time for the Cubs to make a radical change because they need a spark on this team. We'll talk about Brazier and his performance in this one, and I'm just kind of out on him as a Cub at this point. That's all coming next year on the Locked On Cubs postcast on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day, and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. If the Cubs keep playing like this, then maybe these tickets are going to get cheaper and cheaper potentially the way the season's going right now. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Today's show is also brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football prediction into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. It's the perfect time to lock in your season-long, more or less picks for the 2025 football season, all before week 1 kicks off. Whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in the game. A simple question for this one, more or less, 3,999 yards. That's not exactly what PrizePicks has, but Caleb Williams is the one who's saying he's throwing for 4,000 yards this year. So if you believe him, hit that more button. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, more here on Ian Happ. I feel like the bullpen has been held to a different standard than the rest of the team this year. Where we've seen guys come and go, DFA'd, Ryan Presley, Julian Merriweather, who I think just signed with the Brewers. We've seen all these different guys come and go for the Cubs roster this year. Guys who were good at one point for the Cubs, and then they get moved on because they're not performing. Now, look, Ian Happ cannot leave the Chicago Cubs until 2027. But the way he's playing this year is not good enough. And if I was Jed Hoyer and Craig Counsell, I would bring up Moises Ballesteros or Owen Casey right now. Put Ballesteros at DH, suffer through Suzuki's defense in left field, or just put Casey in left and let this thing roll. Find a spark. John Birdie's on this roster. Does anyone even realize that? He doesn't play. Like, you could have Ian Happ and Willie Castro giving guys days off. But there is a spot for one of these prospects, one of them, to be in this lineup every single day. And because you need help. The offense needs something to spark them. I mean, John Birdie is a bullpen arm. That's a funny comment. I couldn't ignore that. Thank you, Carlos, making me chuckle a little bit on a sad day, a bad day for the Cubs. But, like, bring up Ballesteros, someone, like, just to change something for this team. We'll see. I mean, who knows if it would help or not, but bring at least one of them up here. Andy says here in the chat, bring both. I just don't get where, like, I don't know where you're going to put the other one, because you're obviously not taking Tucker and PCA out of the lineup. So, unless you don't want to play Suzuki, but you're not doing that either. So there's really only one spot for either, Casey or Ballesteros on this roster right now with the way that it's constructed. But if you could put one of them in the lineup right now, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth the risk. Ian Happ's a big boy. He's a grown-up. He understands he's not playing well right now this season. He should be fine with taking a back seat at this point and letting other guys try to figure this thing out for the Cubs, because you're now 5 games back in the division. It's becoming more and more unwinnable at this point for the Cubs. I mean, I'm already there. I said it last week or earlier this week. Panic button was hit in terms of winning the NL Central. It feels unrealistic at this point, the way the Cubs are playing. But if there's any chance, something has to change. And I would try, again, I would try something like that. I would bring up Ballesteros. I put him out there. Let him be your everyday DH. Feels like the last clutch hit the Cubs had was from him or Justin Turner. Play him. Like if you're – I don't see what the risk is at this point. So, to me, we'll wait and see. Yeah, Ed says here in the chat, Happ is a bench bat at this point. Yeah, like let him be a bench bat and let him come in for, say, Suzuki in left field at the end of the game for a better defense. Like, why not? Like it's fine. Or again, just let Owen Casey be your left fielder at this point. There's no reason to just continue this. It's frustrating. This team has gone from being an absolute joy to a real tough watch at times. And for a while, it felt like it was like, okay, it's just one game. We'll wait and see. But then it just keeps going and going and going. And every time there's a positive moment for the Cubs that you think could be the turning point, they do this. Mike says here in the chat, this is a disgrace. This is disgraceful to watch. Yeah, I think that's a fair way to put it. The way the Cubs are playing right now. Lastly, here, let's hit on Ryan Brazier. Ryan Brazier, man, I don't know. I don't think he's got it. He wasn't great in clutch situations. Obviously, it wasn't a clutch situation tonight, being down 3-0. But Brazier is not a guy that I think there is a lot of confidence in right now, and I think that's totally fair. At this point, when you think about the odd man out, so Jameson Taillon is one more start in the minors. Javier Assad could be back up this next time through this rotation. So there's going to be guys that are going to lose their jobs. Now, for Colin Ray, to quick note on tomorrow's game, if Colin Ray does not pitch well against the St. Louis Cardinals, he's probably the first guy I would look at as at least losing his spot in the rotation. Now, you have to factor in, I think, Cade Horton, where they're focusing on him around 70 pitches a game right now. Matthew Boyd, they talked about it before the game started tonight on the broadcast, how they're also going to be kind of limiting him a little bit. And when they can't, more about if they can give him an extra rest day, they will. So maybe that's a hint that as these guys return, the Cubs will actually go to a 6-man rotation. We have seen teams do that. The Cubs have an off day on Monday, then don't have another one until August 25th, I believe it is. So could the Cubs deploy a 6-man rotation to help out with Cade Horton and Matthew Boyd? I could see that for sure being a solution for the Cubs at this point, but we'll wait and see. But if Colin Ray starts tomorrow, there's a lot of pressure on him personally, I would imagine. But Brazier is the other one that he's the guy I'm looking at the most of if Colin Ray is moved back to the bullpen, as probably the guy who would be at the top of my list of guys that would most likely move off the roster at this point. The dead will walk the earth, says, except their 6-man rotation will suck. Yeah, it won't be great. But they're pitching. But here's the thing: their starting pitching has been good. Like Matthew Boyd gives up 3 earned runs in this game. The starting pitching has been really good since the trade deadline. Now, the Cubs should still have added more. Edward Cabrera, 11 strikeouts in 8 innings today. Absolutely should have done that. But the Cubs starting pitching is not the problem. It is not the problem in any way, shape, or form for the reason why the Cubs are playing like this since the All-Star break, since before the All-Star break even. But it's the bullpen, it's the lineup. The starting pitching are not the guys. And Jed Hoyer doesn't get a pass for not adding at the deadline. But the lineup is the problem, is that you can't really add to this team unless it's Ballesteros and benching Ian Happ or Owen Casey and benching Ian Happ. Unless you're trading away Matt Shaw, which obviously they didn't do. I'm glad they didn't do. But like the lineup, the guys who are in it, who are supposed to be your best players, they're the ones that are failing. As much as people want to be mad at Craig Counsell, I don't get the lineup today. I think it's strange with Ian Happ batting fourth. They're frustrated with Jed Hoyer. They're frustrated with ownership. Right now, at the end of the day, the problem with the Chicago Cubs is the guys who are batting 1 through 5. That's why the Cubs cannot win baseball games. It's not Jed. It's not Craig. It's 1 through 5. Those guys are the problem right now for the Chicago Cubs. There's no other way to cut it. All right, we'll take a break here. Or no, we'll wrap up here. See, the Cubs got me all frazzled. So that will do it for me tonight. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow as the Cubs will try not to fall down 2-0 in this series against the St. Louis Cardinals. So thank you guys for watching. Be back with you tomorrow. Peace.